hell where you don't burn, you just stare at yourself, where every breath is a question, where every silence is an accusation, and where the only judge is yourself. St. Petersburg, 1866. A student holds an axe. He is not mad. He is not a monster. He is brilliant, calculating. And he is about to prove a theory that says there are two types of human beings: the ordinary, those who obey, who bow down, who die without leaving a mark, and those extraordinary, who rewrite the rules, who shed blood because the destiny of humanity demands it. Napoleon killed millions, and he built empires. So why? He, Rodion Raskolnikov, superior mind, future transformer of the world, cannot kill an old usurer, a leech, a parasite. Why not use her money to do good? Why not prove that he is extraordinary? In the next few minutes, you'll discover why this question destroyed a man from the inside. You'll understand why the greatest punishment doesn't come from judges, nor from prisons, nor from God. It comes from a much darker place. Your own conscience. You'll see how Dostoevsky, who wrote this after years in a Siberian prison, after facing a firing squad, after looking death in the eye, knew more about his psyche than any modern therapist. And in the end, you'll wonder, if you were absolutely certain that no one would find out, would you be able to do it? If you're ready to descend into the basement of the human soul, leave a like now. That gesture tells me you're not afraid to look at yourself in the mirror. Let's begin. The theory of the extraordinary man. Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov hasn't slept for 3 days. Not because he can't, he must. Sleep is surrender. And extraordinary minds do not surrender to ordinary needs such as sleep, food, compassion. He walks through the dusty streets of St. Petersburg, July. Suffocating heat. The sour smell of stale beer mingles with the collective sweat of thousands of bodies crammed into tenements. Raskolnikov climbs the stairs to his room. A vertical coffin, he calls it. It barely fits a bed. The walls are yellow with mold. On the other side of the thin wall, someone is coughing up blood. But Raskolnikov feels no pity. Pity is for ordinary people. He lies down. He opens a notebook, and he begins to read his own handwriting. Article about crime by R.R. Raskolnikov. It's a brilliant theory, simple, irrefutable. Humanity is divided into two groups. You ordinary, the gray matter, the human cattle that needs laws because it has no internal compass. And the extraordinary, the legislators, the builders of the future, the Napoleons. And here's the crucial point. The extraordinary have the right to cross blood. Not because they are cruel, but because history demands it. Napoleon didn't build France by asking permission. He crushed it, and the world thanked him afterward. Raskolnikov closes his notebook. He looks at the cracked ceiling and whispers, "I am extraordinary." Jung would call this ego inflation. When the conscious ego, the small island of our identity, becomes confused with the self, the total center of the psyche. Raskolnikov is not merely confident. He is possessed because of the idea of greatness. He believes to be special. It needs to prove it, because if it's not special, then it's ordinary. And ordinary means invisible, insignificant, dead while alive. Freud would say something different. Raskolnikov is trying to escape from superego, that relentless inner voice that judges, condemns, demands moral perfection. The superego is like a silent tyrant within the mind, always comparing you to an unattainable ideal. And the brighter the mind, the crueler the superego. So Raskolnikov constructs a theory that gives him permission, that which transforms crime into an experiment, that which transforms murder into a test. If I kill and feel no remorse, I am extraordinary. If I do feel remorse, then I am ordinary. He gets up. He borrows an axe from the caretaker. He wraps it in a rag, and he walks to the apartment of Alyona Ivanovna, the old usurer. Have you ever constructed a theory to justify something you knew to be wrong? Have you ever said to yourself, this time it's different, this time I have a reason? Then you understand Raskolnikov. Because the human mind is the most skillful lawyer there is. It can transform betrayal into strategy, cruelty into necessity, murder into philosophy. Raskolnikov knocks on the door. Alyona opens it. She is small, old. Her eyes are suspicious. She makes a living lending money at exorbitant interest rates to desperate students, starving mothers, and men who have lost everything. She is technically a parasite of the system. Raskolnikov doesn't hates, he simply sees her as variable, a removable obstacle. I brought something to pawn, he says. She turns her back to him. She lowers her head to examine the object. And then, in 3 minutes, you'll see what happens when a theory meets an axe, and why blood never just comes from the blade. It goes into the soul. Don't leave now. Raskolnikov lifts the axe. The weight is greater than he expected, or perhaps he is weaker than he thought. For a second, just one, he hesitates. But hesitation is ordinary. Then he lowers the axe. The sound is worse than I imagined. It's not cinematic, it's not clean, it's organic, damp. The old woman falls, but she doesn't die. She groans. She turns her face. Her eyes meet his. And in that second, Raskolnikov sees something that theory hadn't predicted. She is human. He raises the axe again, and again, and again, until the silence returns, until the groaning stops, until the theory proves true. Or not. He's breathing fast, heart racing, hands trembling. It's adrenaline, he thinks. It's just biology. It's not his fault. But then he hears footsteps. Lizavieta, the old woman's half-sister, the kind woman who never hurt anyone, enters the apartment. She sees the body. She sees the blood. She sees Raskolnikov. And before he can think, before the theory can justify it, the axe falls again. Now there are 2 bodies, 2 pairs of glazed eyes, and a question that begins to whisper in the back of Raskolnikov's mind. Would Napoleon have trembled like that? Hell begins immediately. Raskolnikov leaves the apartment. The stairs seem endless. Each step creaks. Each creak sounds like a scream. He goes down, he passes a resident. The man looks at him. Raskolnikov freezes. He knows. He saw. It's over. But the man just yawns and continues climbing. Raskolnikov arrives on the street. Bright sun, people laughing. A kvass vendor shouts out his offers. The world goes on, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just... He vomits in the gutter. The theory didn't mention that. Did Napoleon vomit after battles? Did Alexander the Great have his stomach churn? Raskolnikov wipes his mouth. It's just the body. The mind is clear. The mind is... He returns to his coffin-like room. He locks the door, and for the first time in 3 days, he sleeps. But sleep is not rest. It's an invasion. In his dreams, Alyona is alive, sitting in the chair, laughing. He raises the axe again, goes down, but she keeps laughing, goes down again. She laughs louder. Blood flows, but the laughter doesn't stop. He wakes up screaming. Freud would say, the superego is attacking. Raskolnikov's theory was an attempt to silence the inner voice that judges. But the superego doesn't negotiate. It doesn't accept theories. It simply condemns, and the more Raskolnikov tries to rationalize the crime, the more violent the superego's counteroffensive becomes. Nightmares, fever, paranoia. The body becomes a battleground between the ego, which wants to survive, and the superego, which wants to punish. Raskolnikov wakes up drenched in sweat. 3 days pass. Or was it 4? He's lost count. Every knock on the door is the police. Every glance in the street is an accusation. Every silence is a trap. He receives a summons. Appear at the police station. My heart almost stopped. They found out, it's over. Am I going to confess? No, I'm going to deny it. But what if they have proof? What proof? I cleaned everything. Cleaned it? Yes. No. I don't know. Jung would call this a confrontation with the shadow. The shadow is everything we deny in ourselves, everything we exile to the basement of the psyche. Raskolnikov constructed an identity of an extraordinary man. But the shadow, the part of him that is cowardly, fragile, ordinary, now he rises from the basement, and he's knocking on the door of his conscience. He can't bear to look at it, so he projects. Everyone distrusts me. Everyone knows. Everyone sees. But nobody knows. Nobody suspects anything. The summons to the police station is for an unpaid debt, nothing to do with the crime. The investigator, Porfiry Petrovich, is kind, intelligent, calm. He talks about the weather, about literature, and then, casually, he mentions, "I read your article about ordinary and extraordinary men. Fascinating." Raskolnikov conjula. "Tell me," Porfiry continued, smiling slightly, "do you really believe that certain men have the right to, let's say, cross certain lines? In the name of a greater good?" The room seems to shrink. Raskolnikov tries to answer, but the words are jumbled. He sweats, he stammers, and he realizes he's confessing without saying anything. Porfiry simply smiles. Fascinating theory. Purely theoretical, of course. Raskolnikov leaves the police station. His legs are weak. His mind is collapsing. He knows, Porfiry. He knows, or she almost knows. Or she's waiting for him to turn himself in. But why doesn't she arrest him? Why this slow torture? Because Porfiry understands something that Raskolnikov hasn't yet grasped. The real punishment has already begun. No need for prison. No need for a judge. Raskolnikov's mind has become his own Siberia. Comment now. Have you ever felt like everyone knew about something you did? Even when no one said anything? Even when there was no proof? This is the paranoia of guilt. And if you're feeling this right now while watching this video, maybe there's something you need to confront. Share it with someone who also carries an invisible burden. In 2 minutes, you'll meet the only person who can save Raskolnikov. But here's the problem. She's a prostitute, a fanatical Christian, and believes in things he calls superstition. How can someone like that save a genius? Just wait and see. Raskolnikov meets Semyon Zakharovich Marmeladov in a seedy tavern. Semyon is an alcoholic, a drunken philosopher. He talks non-stop about his own misfortune, about his sick wife, and about his daughter, Sonia, who prostituted herself to feed the family. She's a saint. Semyon cries into his glass of vodka. My Sonia, she sacrificed her purity for us. And me, I drink her money. Raskolnikov listens, and something within him, something that theory cannot explain, stirs. Curiosity, identification, or perhaps hope. Days later, Semyon is run over by a carriage. Raskolnikov helps carry the body to the family's apartment, and there he sees her, Sonia Marmeladova. She is small, thin. Her eyes are enormous. She doesn't cry. She just holds her dead father's hand and whispers a prayer. Raskolnikov looks at her and thinks, how can someone so broken seem so whole? The encounter with the other Raskolnikov seeks out Sonia. He doesn't know why. Theory would say, she is inferior, ordinary, superstitious. But something deeper, something theory can't grasp, draws him to her door. He knocks. She opens the door. The room is even smaller than his, a candle, a battered Bible, a crucifix on the wall. Why did you come? She asks. Her voice is soft but firm. Raskolnikov doesn't answer immediately. He looks at her and then says, because you and I are the same. Sonia frowns. What do you mean? We both crossed the line, he says. You sold your body. He pauses, almost says it, but doesn't. I sold my soul. Sonia shakes her head. We're not the same. I did what I did out of love. For my brothers, for my father, and you. Why did you do what you did? The question is simple, but Raskolnikov has no answer. Activate the notification bell now. If you don't activate it, you'll miss out on the most profound journey through Russian literature. He attempts to explain the theory. Ordinary men, extraordinary men, Napoleon, progress, greater good. Sonia just listens, and when he finishes, she picks up the Bible. She opens it to John 11 and begins to read, "The resurrection of Lazarus. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live." Her hands tremble as she reads. Her voice breaks at times, but she continues. And Raskolnikov listens. He doesn't believe the words, but he believes in it, in her faith, in her unwavering certainty that there is something beyond the ego, beyond theory, beyond blood. When she finishes, tears stream down her face. "You need to confess," she says. "Not to the police, to yourself. You need to stop running." Raskolnikov stands up. "Confess? Why? To rot in prison? To be forgotten? I am extraordinary, Sonia. You're not extraordinary," she interrupts. Her voice is still soft, but there's steel in it. "You're human. You bleed. You suffer. And you feels. If I were as extraordinary as I say, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sick. I wouldn't be dying inside." And at that moment, Raskolnikov realizes she sees through him, through theory, through the mask of genius, through the inflated ego. She sees the frightened boy holding an axe. She sees the shadow, and she doesn't reject it. She just looks. Jung would say, Sonia is Raskolnikov's anima. The anima is the internal image of the feminine in the male psyche. It is a bridge to the unconscious, a bridge to the soul. Raskolnikov lived in his head pure logic, pure theory, pure ego. But anima brings something that logic cannot. Feeling, not superficial emotion, but deep feeling, connection, meaning. Sonia doesn't argue with Raskolnikov. She doesn't dismantle the theory. She simply, and by being, by existing as someone who suffered as much as he did but did not harden, did not construct theories, did not kill her own humanity. She shows him a path he didn't know existed. Raskolnikov leaves Sonia's room, but he doesn't return home. He walks through the streets of St. Petersburg. Dawn. Fog rises from the Neva River. He stops on a bridge. He looks at the water, and he thinks it would be easier to jump, to end this. But what? He doesn't know. He only knows that something has changed. The theory is cracking. The ego is bleeding. And for the first time since the crime, he feels. In 3 minutes you'll see the confession, but it's not what you expect. Because confessing isn't just saying, I did it. It's accepting something far more terrible. I am not who I thought I was. This will send shivers down your spine. Don't leave now. The death of the extraordinary man Porfiry Petrovich summons Raskolnikov again. This time there are no pleasantries. There is no conversation about time or literature. Porfiry simply looks at him and says, I know it was you. Raskolnikov tries to keep his mask on. Proof? I don't need proof. Porfiry replies calmly. You're already confessing. Every second, with every breath. You're destroying yourself from the inside out. I'm just waiting for you to come to the same conclusion. Raskolnikov stands up, hands trembling. You can't. I can wait. Porfiry interrupts. How much longer can you hold out, Rodion Romanovich? Another week, a month, a year? Because I have the rest of my life. And you're dying now. Raskolnikov leaves the police station. The streets swirl, the sky seems heavy. He walks aimlessly and finds himself once again at Sonia's door. She opens the door. She sees his condition and simply says, The time has come. Of what? He asks, his voice breaking. To die for. Raskolnikov steps back. You want me to kill myself? No, she says, taking his hand. I want you to kill. That one, Raskolnikov. The extraordinary one. The one who thinks he's above everything. That one needs to die, so that the real you can be born. If you've made it this far, 18 minutes into this video, you're not just watching. You're seeking transformation. Give it a like now, and share it on your stories. I'm on the journey, because this video isn't entertainment. It's a reflection. Raskolnikov falls to his knees, and finally, the words come out. I killed the old woman and Lizaveta. I am human. Sonia finishes. You are human, flawed, broken, and loved nonetheless. He cries, not tears of relief, cries of death, because something inside him, this dying, the inflated ego, the genius identity, the mask of the extraordinary, everything crumbles, and what remains is a frightened boy, a man who erred terribly, a human being. Freud would say, the superego won, but it is not victory. It is the annihilation of the ego that tried to escape. The superego does not forgive. It crushes, and Raskolnikov is now under the rubble. Jung would say something different. This is not defeat. It is individuation, the process of becoming whole. Raskolnikov lived identified only with the ego, the small conscious part that wants control, power, meaning. But individuation requires integrating the shadow, accepting that you are both light and darkness, both genius and monster, both extraordinary and ordinary. And it is in that acceptance, not denial, not escape, is where true transformation begins. Sonia hands him a wooden crucifix. Take this, when you confess. Confess, he repeats, to the police, for the world, for God, for yourself. Raskolnikov picks up the crucifix. He feels no faith. He feels no redemption. He feels only exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that comes after years of running and finally stopping. He walks to the police station. The sun is setting. The streets are crowded. He stops in the middle of Senaya Square, the market square where merchants shout, where life teems. And there, in front of everyone, he kneels. He kisses the ground and whispers, I have sinned against the earth. People stare. Some laugh. Look at the drunkard. Others walk straight past. No one understands. But Raskolnikov isn't confessing to them. He's confessing to something bigger, something that theory never grasped. Shared humanity. He gets up. He enters the police station, and he says to Porfiry, it was me. I killed Alyona Ivanovna and Lizaveta. Porfiry simply nods. I know. I always knew. Then why didn't you arrest me sooner? Because, Porfiry says gently, I needed that you. I've arrived here. Prison without remorse is just prison. But confession is the beginning of something different. Siberia. The true punishment begins or ends. Raskolnikov is sentenced to 8 years of hard labor in Siberia. Sonia accompanies him, not as a wife, not as a lover, simply as a presence, a witness, an anchor. Siberia is cold, brutal. The other prisoners despise him. Intellectual, they spit, thinks he's better than us. Raskolnikov doesn't answer. He works, eats, sleeps, but feels nothing. The confession didn't bring peace, it brought emptiness. Dostoevsky knew this intimately. In 1849, he was arrested for publishing subversive texts against Tsar Nicholas I. He was sentenced to death. He was led to the firing squad. They blindfolded him. They raised their weapons. And at the last second, literally at the last second, a messenger arrived. The Tsar has commuted the sentence, Siberia, not death. Dostoevsky has been exposed. And according to himself at that moment, he was reborn. Imminent death forced him to see life in a radically different way, not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived. He spent 4 years in forced labor in Siberia, and it was there, surrounded by murderers, rapists, men whom society called scum, that he discovered something surprising. They were human, so complex, so contradictory, as capable of kindness as of horror, just like him. This experience destroyed Dostoevsky's naive idealism, but it gave him something more valuable: understanding, not the abstract philosophical kind, the kind that only comes from having lived through hell and discovered that hell isn't a place, it's a state of mind. And that is exactly what happens to Raskolnikov. 2 years pass. Raskolnikov is still empty. The theory is dead. The extraordinary ego is dead. But nothing has been born in its place. He is a shell, a shadow of himself. And then, one spring morning, something happens. He is working near the river. Sonia walks by with a basket of laundry. Their eyes meet. And for the first time, he sees not only a reflection of his own guilt. He sees Sonia, the woman who sacrificed everything, the woman who followed him to hell, the woman who never, not once, judged him. Raskolnikov drops the tool. He walks over to it and without a word falls at its feet. He hugs its legs and cries. She simply places her hand on his head and whispers, "Now that's it. Now you're alive." And then Raskolnikov understands. The punishment wasn't Siberia. It was the time between the crime and the confession. It was living with the unintegrated shadow. It was existing as a lie. Siberia, with all its physical brutality, is in fact redemption, because here, finally, he is forced to be honest. There is no more theory. There is no more mask. Just being human. Jung would say, now he has begun true individuation. No more inflation of the ego, I am extraordinary. No more denial of the shadow, I am not like them, but integration, acceptance. I am capable of the best and the worst, and that makes me whole. Freud would say, the superego has relaxed, not because Raskolnikov is forgiven, but because Hippolyte the superego demands payment. Confession is not enough. Suffering is not enough. But transformation, a real change in the structure of the psyche, this satisfies the inner tyrant. Raskolnikov picks up Sonia's Bible. He opens it to John 11, and he reads for the first time with an open heart, I am the resurrection and the life. He doesn't believe, not yet. Not in a religious sense, but you understand the metaphor. Resurrection isn't magic. It's death followed by birth. It's letting the old self die so that something new can emerge. And for the first time in years, Raskolnikov feels something that theory never predicted, that the ego never sought, that crime never promised. Hope. Dostoevsky, You and the Infinite Mirror. Dostoevsky did not write Crime and Punishment in 1866 by chance. He was 45 years old. He had already faced a firing squad. He had already survived Siberia. He had already lost his wife, his brother, and almost everything he owned. And he knew, in a way that only those who have sunk to the bottom can know, that the worst punishment doesn't come from outside. It comes from within, from consciousness, from the unintegrated shadow, from the relentless superego, from the ego that lies to itself and eventually pays the price. There is a specific moment that transformed Dostoevsky in Siberia. During the Easter festivities, the prisoners became drunk and violent. Disgusted, Dostoevsky isolated himself, and then suddenly, he remembered something from his childhood, the servant Marais. When Dostoevsky was a child, he had a panic attack in the forest. He thought he heard a wolf. He ran to Marais, an illiterate, dirty, ordinary servant by social standards, and Marais hugged him. He made the sign of the cross over him and whispered, "It's all right, little one. No one will hurt you." That Easter in prison, Dostoevsky looked again at the drunken and violent prisoners, and he saw Marais. He saw human beings, broken, yes, monstrous sometimes, but also capable of tenderness, of kindness, of something that transcends the category of ordinary or extraordinary. And it was that the revelation he placed within Raskolnikov. The theory of the extraordinary man is not just fiction. Dostoevsky was responding to the real philosophies of his time: nihilism, radical utilitarianism, the idea that the ends justify the means. He was responding to thinkers who said, morality is a social construct. There is no objective right or wrong, only power and weakness. And Dostoevsky, who lived regarding the consequences of these ideas, he said, no, there is something deeper than theory, deeper than logic, something the shadow knows, the superego defends, and the conscience doesn't let escape. Calling it God is one option. Calling it the superego is another. Calling it the Jungian self is yet another. But the name matters less than the fact. You can't run away from yourself. Raskolnikov tried. He constructed a brilliant theory. He executed it perfectly. And he discovered that theory does not protect from conscience. Logic does not silence guilt. Genius does not avoid the shadow. And you? Are you carrying something? Some lie you tell yourself? Some theory that justifies something your heart knows is wrong? Some shadow you keep locked away in the basement? Because this book, this video, isn't about St. Petersburg in 1866. It's about you, now, today. The old pawnbroker whom Raskolnikov killed is not just a person. It's anything you dare to build your identity. It's the job you hate but keep because it defines who you are. It's the toxic relationship you don't end because you've already invested so much. It's the image of an extraordinary person you project on social media while inside you're empty. And the axe? The axe is any action you take to keep the lie alive. It's the betrayal you rationalize, the cruelty you call honesty, the omission you call strategy. But here's the truth that Dostoevsky paid with years of suffering to learn. The axe always returns. Always. Not as divine punishment, as basic psychology. Because you are not just ego. You are a whole system. Ego, shadow, superego, self. And when one part lies, the whole system becomes ill. Raskolnikov was saved by Sonia, by the presence of someone who saw him completely, crime, theory, fear, everything, and didn't abandon him. But here's the problem. You can't expect someone to save you. Sonia is a symbol of forgiveness, of grace, of unconditional love. But in real life, you have to make the walk to the police station alone. You need to kneel alone in Senea Square. You need to integrate your shadow alone. Nobody can do this for you. Comment now. Where are you on the journey? Holding the axe, thinking about doing something you know is wrong. After the crime, he already did it and is running away from the blame. In Senea Square, ready to confess. In Siberia, paying the price and learning. With Sonia, finding redemption. And share this video with one person you know is holding an axe, or running from the shadow, or constructing theories to avoid looking in the mirror. See you on the next journey, pilgrim. Dostoevsky spent the rest of his life writing about it. The Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot, Notes from Underground. All the works are variations on the same theme. You can't run away from yourself. And when you stop running away, something extraordinary happens. Not greatness, not power, but complete humanity. Whole, real, and perhaps, just perhaps, that is the real one. Extraordinary, not to be above humanity, but completely inside, that is. May your axe fall. May your shadow be seen. May your Siberia transform you.